one-bedroom apartment above the Main Street pub and the Crisis Pregnancy Center. The thin walls were ineffective to quiet the arguments in the adjacent apartment. There was so much yelling. Even though I didn't know how to express it then, I knew something was wrong about the life we'd left behind. But to a 6-year-old, all-night arcade adventures fueled by Dr. Pepper and midnight motorcycle rides would always feel better than sleeping on cots in strange places. I didn't know which life I wanted more, but I soon understood I didn't have that choice. This was our new true. For a long time, nothing was certain except that life was uncertain. We all have the same story, don't we? At least in some sense. I may have gone first, but any one of you could go next and share in hesitant or colorful detail the moment you stood shattered as the most permanent thing in your life passed away before your eyes. Maybe you didn't have a father with bipolar disorder and a drug abuse problem, but maybe someone you trusted very much hurt you very deeply. Or maybe your family packed up and moved away from the only home and friends you ever knew. Maybe this passing away was a physical death, a constant figure in your life whose slow or sudden death made you question the steadfastness of everything around you. It's that first time, though, isn't it? That very first experience of our sureness undone. It shapes us forever. I'll never forget my Grandma Marveline taking me out for lunch when I was a kid, quoting Ernestine Ulmer and winking as she leaned across the table and pointing to my menu. "Life is uncertain. Eat dessert first." I was terrified and exhilarated all at once at the sudden realization of all the uncertainties life held. Anything could happen. On the other hand, anything could happen. By the time we're adults, and for some of us even sooner, we understand that nothing will last forever. People change, seasons change, and the best and worst circumstances always eventually pass away. This knowledge drives some of us to hold life loosely, kissing moments as they come, knowing they'll be gone before we know it. Others of us determined to manage our realities with a tight grip and an inflexible resolve. We record our lives with photographs and journals, not wanting a moment to pass without documenting, lest we forget it even happened. Still, some of us know all too well the pain of things passing, so we choose not to savor, not to record, and not to remember. We don't let people in because they will most certainly leave us, and we don't take risks because something will absolutely go wrong, and we don't dare dream because dreaming leads to disappointment. Whether we hold life loosely with a tight grip or at arm's length, adulthood has made every one of us keenly aware of how temporary life is. One degree or another, whether we like to admit it or not, we're all fighting for permanent. Why do you think that is? What do we hope to find on the other side of permanent? And how do we hold tight to it once we've found it? Sand and stars. A lot of men and women in the Bible were fighting for permanent just like us, and in most cases, their permanent passed away just as quickly. Job's story is an obvious example of big life changes in a short time period, but the loss of his wealth and family is particularly dramatic. Job wasn't the only one. The same happened with Adam and Eve when they were sent out of the actual paradise of Eden into a newly fallen world. In Job's case, his loss was because of his righteousness, and in Adam and Eve's case, it was because of their disobedience. But they both lost their permanent in the blink of an eye. Joseph was sold into slavery by his brothers one afternoon, later thrown into prison because Potiphar's wife lied, and he was eventually elevated from prisoner to king's assistant overnight. Permanent was not a theme in Joseph's life, but God's favor absolutely was. Dramatic life changes aren't exclusively an Old Testament theme. Think of the lame man by the pools of Bethesda. When Jesus healed him, he left behind the life of a crippled beggar he'd known for 38 years. Mary and Martha suffered the loss and celebrated the resurrection of their brother Lazarus, all in the matter of a couple of days. Saul encountered God on the road to Damascus and went from being a chief persecutor of Christians to temporary blindness to being an impassioned apostle of Jesus with a new name. And what about the disciples? They were all minding their own business when Jesus called them to drop everything and follow him. Fast forward a couple years and they're dining at the Last Supper with Jesus, with nothing close to a clear understanding of what the next 3 days would hold. Life would never be the same for any of them. Life changes in an instant, but even when that change is unwelcome, we can give thanks because God is good.